Welcome everyone, this is Chris with Virtual Firearms Association, and today I'm going to bring you a no-nonsense, straight to the point firearm tutorial for basic, beginners, people who may not have even held a gun before. I'm going to break it down to the basics, no gun talk, nothing but plain language, something simple, so you can just understand how to operate one of these things right here. Stay tuned, let's get it started. Some of these key components that you need to pay attention to that are part of the firearm, just when it comes to you actually holding the gun, this handle, which is what you see here, is known as the grip. This piece right outside here is known as your trigger guard. And of course, this is the trigger. This makes the gun go bang. This is the frame of the gun, as well as the slide. So keep that in mind just when it comes to you picking up that firearm. When you're picking up that gun, make sure your fingers, every single one of them, are outside of this trigger guard, which is what you see here. One of the first things you do when you're getting ready to handle a firearm is know the actual condition that your firearm is actually in. Is there a round in the chamber? Is there any bullets in the gun? Is it a clear gun? Does it have anything going on with the gun? Is the gun actually functioning the right way? You don't know until you actually check it yourself. Don't take anybody's word for it. You are the one that's responsible for the firearm. You are the one that needs to check and inspect to make sure that the weapon is clear, especially before you do any household drills or do any drills that I'm actually getting ready to show you, just when it comes to the manipulation of the firearm. So, simple task. First thing you do, as you can see here, pick up the gun, but make sure you keep that finger along this slide of the trigger, just like you see here. Pick up the weapon, and as you see right here, this is the magazine release right here. Drop that magazine. As you can see, I have a set of dummy rounds that's actually located inside the magazine. Drop that down. Take this, go ahead and rack the slide one time to go ahead and eject anything that may be in there. As you can see, there was a round that actually flew out of the chamber. Take that. This is the slide release. Take that. Lock the slide to the rear like that. Visually and manually, check to make sure that that weapon is clear and safe. As you can deem, or if you can deem that the weapon is safe at this point, your gun is clear and safe. Simple as that. Those are some of the things that you should do every single time that you pick up a firearm. Now, how to hold a firearm. There's so many different ways that you may have seen in the movies or TV shows, or just seeing your neighbor or somebody on the range hold a firearm in a certain way. But this is the way that you're actually supposed to hold a firearm. And for this particular drill, one of the things that you don't need to use a magazine. Again, make sure the weapon is clear and safe, just like I did. As you can see, there's nothing inside the chamber. Nothing in, no magazine that's actually in the bottom part of the gun. And the weapon is clear and safe, all right? So the first step is picking up the firearm. So once you actually pick up the firearm, when you are actually holding it, make sure that your hand, it's not down here. Make sure that your hand is actually high as possible up here on this back strap, which is located right here, all the way up here to the side like this, because it prevents any type of muzzle flip, as you can see here, from actually happening. If you're holding the gun loose or holding it down at the base towards the bottom part of the grip, anytime that you fire a round, that gun will flip and possibly can flip out of your hand depending on the caliber and depending on the firearm that it is that you're actually using. So keep that in mind. Anytime you are picking up that firearm, keep this finger As you can see right here, I am right-handed. Keep this finger outside of this trigger guard right here. Keep that in mind. This trigger guard right here is used to actually protect yourself from picking up the gun and also from accidentally hitting that trigger and making the gun go bang. You definitely don't want that to happen, because if you do pull that trigger, you want that trigger to go off at its intended target and when you're actually ready, instead of having any kind of accidental bangs or bullets going anywhere else that it's not intended to. Now, once you make sure that the gun is clear and safe, go ahead and practice. See how the gun actually feels in your hand, see how it actually handles, and make sure that you are following just some of the tips that I gave you as far as your hand. High up as possible on that back strap, finger alongside the slide or outside of the trigger guard, as long as it's not on that trigger, which is what you see there, then you're actually good. You want to hold the gun as firm as possible, but not to the point where your hand is actually starting to change colors or your hand actually shaking. But this is the proper grip just on the firearm. And then once you've mastered that, you can actually use your other part of your hand and actually use a grip that's actually called the thumbs forward grip, and apply equal pressure on both sides of the gun to try to make sure that this gun, anytime you are firing it, to make sure that it's actually firing straight. That's one of the most important thing is that you want to make sure that this firearm is as still as possible just when it comes to you shooting the firearm. These are just some of the basic things. Master the first part as far as your dominant hand placement on the firearm, and then bring that support hand, which is your other side, alongside that hand with a thumb forward grip, and hold the gun as firm as possible. These are just some of the basic steps it is just when it comes to you being able to fire a gun and be as accurate as possible. That right there is some of the just basic fundamentals just when it comes to just operating a firearm. The first thing you need to know how to do is how to hold this thing to begin with. Before you even pull that trigger, before you even fire one of those rounds down range, your grip is definitely important in making sure that you are actually trying to hit what it is that you're aiming for. Stay tuned for part 2. We're going to continue this series on just basic fundamentals on using a firearm. Talk to you soon. Have a blessed one.